Are the Mountaineers really in contention for one of the best guards in the transfer portal right now? Sixth man of the year in the A-10, Terrence Hill Jr. is in the portal, and the West Virginia Mountaineers got their eye on him. We're going to tell you all things Terrence Hill in this episode of Mountaineer Moment. Stick around.
This is the Mountaineer Moment, your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. From pregame to postgame coverage and breaking news, we've got you covered. Let's go.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Mountaineer Moment. My name's Troy, and this is your source for all things West Virginia football and basketball. Man, the transfer portal is growing by the day. No, that's not enough. Growing by the hour, growing by the minute. It's insane, the era of college basketball that we find ourselves in. And the Mountaineers are in the thick of things with a number of transfer portal targets. We've done a couple episodes recently on some guys that I have heard that they are going after and some guys that they should go after. And this episode, talking about Terrence Hill Jr. out of VCU, is no different. Mountaineers and a lot of other teams have their eye on him. He's a breakout performer in the A-10, most notably for his performance, man. Don't forget, because it wasn't that long ago, in the opening round of the NCAA Tournament as an 11 seed against the 6-seeded Tar Heels in North Carolina. Hill helped to engineer a comeback victory over the Tar Heels. And what did he do? He put up 34 points in 40 minutes on 56% shooting, and he knocked down 7 of his 10 threes. He was phenomenal. And then he put up 17 in the loss to Illinois in 37 minutes, man. But if you didn't know about Terrence Hill Jr. before March Madness, well, you know about him now, and you know about him after that dominant performance in the upset win against the North Carolina Tar Heels. And in this episode, we're going to do a little deep dive on him as a player. We're going to talk about what it's actually going to look like to get him to Morgantown. Is that even possible? There's lots of people that want him. And then we'll give you, at the end of the episode, some other names to be monitoring as this transfer portal season, I don't want to say is in full swing yet, but, it just started. But you can start to think through, not that Mountaineers have gotten anybody to commit yet, but you can start to think through of all right, your dream team, or what this roster and maybe what Ross Hodge and company are thinking as to how they're trying to assemble this team in 2026, 2027, based on the guys that they are targeting in the transfer portal. So Terrence Hill Jr. is one of those guys out of VCU. We're going to talk about him in just a moment. But again, Mountaineer Moment, episode 185. We would love for you to join this growing Mountaineer Moment community. Whatever platform you're on, hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Smash that like button, man, and help me grow this channel. It'd be greatly appreciated. We're approaching 600 subscribers on YouTube, and day by day, man, day by day. And we're continuing to produce content here in the quote-unquote off-season. I'm calling it the portal season. Lots going on. Next episode, we're going to talk about some Mountaineer football and some things that we know there. But yeah, hit that subscribe button, man. Help this channel grow. I would really, really appreciate that. Terrence Hill Jr. 15 points per game off the bench for VCU. He won the 6th man of the year in the A-10 and the most improved player in the A-10. He's a guy from Portland, Oregon, 6'3", 180, and averaged 15 points off the bench. He only started in 2 games, and the reason he was the most improved player in the A-10, well, let me give you his numbers from a season ago, because he was with VCU as a freshman, played in 23 games, just 6 minutes per contest, averaged just over 3 points a game. A year 1 to year 2 jump, which I just love to see, and this is going to be kind of sounds silly because he is in the transfer portal, but how cool is it to see someone stay at this school they were at and have an amazing jump like that, like 12 points per game up, 20 more minutes per game, knocking down 2 more threes a game. Like, he just elevated his game to a whole nother level and saw the playing time that he wanted, and he competed on a VCU team that won a game in the NCAA Tournament. So a quality product that they were putting out on the floor this year, and Terrence Hill Jr. was their leading scorer, their leading assist man, and in a unique way, he did that off the bench, right? I don't know who else, and he only averaged 2.8 assists per game, but I don't know who else in the country led their team in scoring off the bench and was their leading assist man. I don't know if anybody else was doing that besides Terrence Hill Jr., the 6'3 guard for the VCU Rams in Richmond. All right, so that's an overview of what he did at VCU. Again, mentioned the 34-point game against Carolina. If you didn't know about him before that, you knew about him after that. But throughout the season, he was a really, really consistent guy. He scored 21 against Virginia Tech early in the season. He had a number of 20-plus point performances in A-10 play. Scored 17 against the good St. Louis team, 21 against Duquesne, 20 against Richmond in the battle for that city down there in Virginia. 17 in their opening game against Wagner, 9, 3 threes against NC State way back in November. But he's the type of player that, obviously there's a spark plug way about him off the bench with the way that he can score points. If you look at his tape and you're thinking, well, West Virginia comparison, I did this with another West Virginia player, I forget who it was recently, or another player that West Virginia is targeting, and I compared him to the same player, and I'm comparing him to Taz Sherman, just for the sole fact that he's instant offense off the bench, right? 15 points per game. Taz came off the bench much of his West Virginia career and provided a spark. Similar stature, 6'3", and a major jump from year one to year two, and it's such a major jump. In fact, let me tell you these teams that are reportedly interested in Terrence Hill, who's regarded as early on in this process one of the top players in the portal. So in addition to West Virginia, teams that are interested in the A-10 Sixth Man of the Year and Most Improved Player: Maryland, Florida, Arkansas, Tennessee, Kansas, Creighton, Texas, Ole Miss, LSU, Oregon, Vanderbilt, Kentucky, USC, UCLA, Seton Hall, DePaul, Minnesota, Texas A&M, Oklahoma, Auburn, and Baylor. And I'm sure there's a few more. All those teams have expressed interest. We're in the era of NIL. I mentioned Oregon. He's from Oregon. Could that be a factor in this thing? Does he want to go closer to home? He was at VCU on the other side of the country. There's a number of teams that are interested in him. And so, point 2 right here on Mountaineer Moment, as you can see on the outline on YouTube, is, well, what's it actually look like to get a player of Terrence Hill Jr.'s caliber to Morgantown, to commit to play for Ross Hodge and the Mountaineers? And that's what we want to talk about right now. Well, what does this look like, and what are the facts? The facts that we have are a couple Mountaineers have entered the transfer portal. There's a few Mountaineer seniors that are fighting for another year of eligibility and trying to get a waiver, and we'll see how that plays out. My stance on that is don't count on it, but if it happens, that's a pleasant surprise, I guess you could say. Miles Sadler, point guard, is coming in, and this team has an opportunity to be built around a guy like that who's extremely special, extremely talented at the point guard position. We've done a recent episode on him if you want to go check that out, as he was won the Chipotle Nationals and was named MVP of the Chipotle Nationals. Previous winners of that: Cooper Flagg, Caden Boozer. Pretty good company. Miles Sadler took that home for his team, Bella Vista. So check out that episode, a few episodes back, special on this guy, Miles Sadler. But Terrence Hill Jr., we know what he provides. We know there's a lot of interest. We know he's a spark plug off the bench. We know a year 1 to year 2 jump that he made that was pretty remarkable. And now he's getting interest from the Blue Bloods, from other teams like West Virginia, from other power conference teams that are interested. What's it look like for him to come to Morgantown? Now, this is where we get into some things that we don't fully, at least with this point I'm going to make, we don't fully grasp, you and me as fans, is because we don't really know how much money we're working with, and we don't know the full-on game plan. We don't know who behind the scenes is close to committing right now, whether it's at the guard position or a big man, but that's influencing this, right? I think Ross Hodge and his team, as they seek to fill out this roster, and there's a lot of filling out to do, right? I mentioned the 5 seniors in the starting lineup. Your 6th man off the bench, and Chance Moore's a senior. You lost your most productive freshman, DJ Thomas, to the transfer portal. Who knows what's going to happen with Amir Jenkins? Jaden Forsythe, the freshman who didn't play a lot, is gone. Jackson Fields maybe will be back. Amir Jenkins maybe will be back. But this is a rebuild once again. The only difference is you have your coaching staff. You have a couple pieces maybe from last year's team, but not a whole lot. And so what's Ross Hodge targeting in the transfer portal has a lot to do with this, right? Because, financially, NIL-wise, if West Virginia was that big, quote-unquote, that big on Terrence Hill Jr., they could get him. You might be like, no, they can't, because Kentucky and Kansas. No, they can't. Yes, they can. If West Virginia wants to get Terrence Hill Jr., they can get him. If it's solely money. Right? Let me rephrase that. If it's solely Kentucky's going to offer me this much, West Virginia's going to offer me this much, I'm going to Kentucky. If West Virginia can outbid Kentucky, if this is what's going on in Terrence Hill Jr.'s head, West Virginia can outbid anybody, I'm going to them. Now, there's probably some other things that have to do with it. I get it. It's not all about money. But if that's the one thing, West Virginia can get him. Not because they have more money than other people, but if they value him more than other people in that regard, and they prioritize him, then they get him. They get one of these top guards in the transfer portal, but at what cost would be the question. Because if you spend, 60% of your NIL money available to you on one player, then that's going to change how you can fill out the rest of the roster. And the reason I, kind of just go that route with it is because, to me, that just makes sense. Because, think of it like in a professional team, right? This is professional sports nowadays at the college ranks. Tom Brady was known for taking a pay cut so that he could bring in other pieces to help the team be good. And look what he did in New England, right? Super Bowl. He just, because the team around him was good and he took a pay cut so that they could be good, right? If you pay Terrence Hill, if you outbid everybody else, that might be at the expense of other pieces that you can bring in to make this team better as a whole. The same could be said for everybody in the portal, right? If you have your sights set on 1 or 2 guys and you pay them all that money and then everything else is gone, where's the rest of the talent going to come from? And one of the things I've been vocal about lately on Mountaineer Moment is this fact that West Virginia needs to seek to add real depth this year. Because there were moments, there's a plethora of struggles for the Mountaineer basketball team in 25-26. But one of them was a depth issue, and we didn't have a lot of injuries. We didn't have a lot of issues in that regard. It was a consistent group. But you had your starting 5, you had Chance Moore, you had DJ Thomas, you had Amir Jenkins. Morris Ukasuk didn't play a whole lot. Jackson Fields obviously didn't play outside of the beginning of the season. Well, he started with a hand injury and then played a few games and then looking for a medical red shirt. Jaden Forsythe didn't play. You on paper heading into the season, I thought we were going to be deeper than we were, and it just didn't pan out that way for one reason or another. And from watching the NCAA tournament this year, one of the things I learned, aside from just immense talent difference between West Virginia and some of these national title contenders, is the depth that they have. You got guys coming off the bench who can really, really, really have an impact. Not that Chance Moore didn't really have an impact for West Virginia, but who else really? DJ Thomas, a couple games, had a real big impact off the bench. We need to have 3 or 4 guys have an impact, big impact off the bench every game. And you don't get that, again, if we go all out on Mo Sela and Terrence Hill Jr., hypothetically, I don't know, any inside information on the Mo Sela thing, the Georgia Tech big man who's in the portal with a connection to Bella Vista, obviously, and those guys. But if you spend all your money on that, it limits what you can do elsewhere. And so all that to say, what I'm trying to say is the whole process of getting him to Morgantown has a lot to do with, what this roster needs to shape up to look like, and you have a lot of holes to fill because you got a lot of guys that are gone. Like, that's the bottom line. It's not like we have 8 guys coming back and you know that you need to fill it, and those are all playable guys, and you want to fill out your roster with 1 or 2 more guys that can really fill it up, can really score the basketball, can really defend, or whatever your biggest need is, and you got X amount of money to spend, makes it a little easier, from that view. You get 1 guy to commit, you get 2 guys to commit. Like, you're not seeing the puzzle fit together quite yet, other than what would be a hypothetical thing. And so it's a really hard spot for coaches to be in nowadays. But, just kind of wild. Anyway, to round out the episode, I did want to just give some other names to monitor. And some of these guys I've touched on before, some I have not. A couple guys looking to get a waiver. Jason Edwards, transfer guard who began at North Texas after JUCO, which was Hodge's first season leading North Texas Mean Green. Averaged 17 at Vanderbilt, averaged 16.5 at Providence this past season. Javon Buchanan, watched a lot of tape on him from Boise State. That kid can really play, and played at Boise State the last couple seasons, also looking to get a waiver. He started all 31 games for a Boise State team that won 20 games. Another couple names to know. West Virginia's reportedly interested in a couple guys from Miami, Ohio, which makes a lot of sense if you look at Ross Hodge's comments, anytime between when he got here and today, stating he likes to bring in guys from winning cultures, winning DNA, winning background. Obviously, Miami, Ohio, 32-2. They did just that. Ian Elmer, a guy who averaged 12 points. And Brant Byers, second leading scorer for them this season, averaged 14. Who's pretty good, too. All right. Other transfers, again, Cameron Taylor, talked about him, UNC Asheville, a lot of highlights on him. A lanky guy, 19.7 rebounds this past season. Jacob Walker, 6'1", sophomore guard, Sam Houston State, averaged 11.5. Tyleek Weeks, 6'7", guy from Southern Miss, averaged almost 20 points and 5 rebounds. And so Weeks and Cameron Taylor, kind of interesting pieces with that long frame, long wingspan, 6'7" guy that can fill it up, could change things pretty significantly for West Virginia. From the tape I've seen on Buchanan of Boise State, he can shoot it from outside, but he's also really good down low, really good at finding spots, really good at getting himself open, finding the passing lane for the guy with the ball to make it easy for him. And he's not the most athletic guy, not the fastest guy. I don't know if I saw too many dunks in his highlight reel, but steady and doesn't seem to get rushed or flustered. You could just see it kind of fitting in West Virginia and Ross Hodge's offense. He made several shots that I've seen this year, and late shot clock where he had the ball in his hands and he made a play, which is encouraging. Good in the post, good in the mid-range as well, good free throw shooter. So Buchanan would be definitely a guy to watch for with Ross Hodge and the Mountaineers, and he's reportedly coming for a visit, I think this weekend or next week in Morgantown. So keep an eye on Buchanan and all these guys, man. It's portal season's here. It's going to be fun, and we'll have you covered all the way through it here on Mountaineer Moment. Episode 185. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and we'll see you next time on Mountaineer Moment. Let's go Mountaineers.